I used to think that if I will have that IIT tag, I will stand out. But now that I don't have that, I need to find something else. How can I stand out so that I don't have to introduce myself from the college that I am from? So I dropped out when I was 21. I was in third year of college. I could have just spent one more year and graduated with a degree. But I realized something very important with my journey, right? I realized this thing that I had outgrown every single person around me. I went to a lot of tech conferences. I met so many creators, so many people, and I realized that real learning is out there. Last year, I made about 3 crores with content.
You told me that you came back from Japan last night itself.
Exactly. 2 a.m. I landed, and
Correct.
here I am right now.
Right, and we had a sort of struggle, connecting with Ishan. Probably he was in a vacation, and I was poking messages at him like, Ishan, are you coming tomorrow? Is it fine? Do I send you questions? But then we decided we're not going to send him questions. We are going to keep this as conversational and natural as possible. That's the idea of having these conversations, so that it gets as unfiltered as possible from the Ishan that's sitting here. But Ishan, I'm going to first start with trying understanding you first, right? I'm saying as a kid, because a lot of the ideas that come in our head while we grow up starts from what we have seen as a kid. So tell me a little background about your house, about your parents, who they are, what they have done, and how did they raise a kid like you who probably had the guts to do what you did?
So I changed 14 different schools in 12 years of my schooling in 10 different cities across the country. So I lived in Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, Indore, Jabalpur, Saharanpur, many different cities now here. So my childhood had been all about going through changes and being okay with changes, adapting to new places. The way students talk when you go to south from north, like I was in Saharanpur, and then in 6th grade I was in Hyderabad.
Okay.
Complete change of culture, right? Like the way people communicate, it's completely different. The slangs they use, it's completely different. So I got to learn about all of these different things early on in my childhood, and as a result of that, I just got okay with, number one, being myself, being with myself, not, कुछ लोगों को ऐसा होता है ना that they need friends.
Yeah.
And they just cannot sit by themselves in solitude. I learned that during my school years. So I think that's what my childhood has been all about. Ever since I saw the first Iron Man movie my father took me to, I always wanted to build robots and all. So I used to beg my father to get me remote control cars. फिर वो कार को खोल के उसमें से कुछ मोटर निकाल रहा हूँ, कुछ चिप निकाल रहा हूँ, उसके अटैच करके कुछ नया सर्किट बना रहा हूँ. So I used to do that. That was fun to me. Later on, I realized that I would also want to do computer science. And I want to do something in between, electronics and computer science.
So at what point you decided that you want to do computer science? Because this decision comes in because of a lot of peer pressure, and you seeing a lot of people around you or your friends saying that are computer science karte, computer science.
It was less pressure and more, it sounded cool, right? And it was also the time when you were seeing headlines from IITs. IIT Roorkee se Uber ka package laga 1 crore ka and all. So my father was looking at that. I was looking at that. My father looks at me. I look at him. And it's like we share this brief moment of looking at each other. And it's like, ab engineering karenge. And that's how it all started.
Okay, so you were saying that that 1 crore package was lucrative enough for you, that you were seeing that these IITs were giving you. And you were eyeing for IIT, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But IIT didn't happen to you.
It did not. So it was a 3-year struggle story that I went through. I gave my IIT JEE advance exam in Mumbai. And you might have also felt this. आप जब exam देते हो, exam देने के बाद you just know if you've nailed it or not. Right? वो एक feeling आ जाती है अंदर से. And मेरे को feeling नहीं आ रही थी. I had messed up the paper because I got too caught up in the hard questions. And I had not learned that skill of picking the easier questions first and doing that.
Right.
So I think that's what happened. So I messed up in the last point, could not make it into an IIT, and I just did not know what to do next. There was no other plan B that I had in my mind. It was just one thing. So afterwards I was like, what to do? What do I do next? So my parents were like, you should give BitSat, you should give VIT and other exams. So I gave all of them. I got selected in all VIT and BITS and all. Ended up with BITS. But the thing was that I never knew what BITS is. Right? Obviously, it's a big college, but I was just so focused on IITs. I had never looked at other colleges as well.
Right.
It was when I went to BITS I realized how great the college is and what are the opportunities and things that I can do over there in the college.
Did you do amazing stuff in your college? Because as far as I know, you
Define
dropped
amazing.
Yeah, define amazing. I mean, you and I, we have at least a generation gap. I mean, while I was in college, while I was studying, I did not do my engineering. My focus was to just learn something because I come from a tier three town, and then for me, going out of my comfort zone and learning was the primary thing. But for people who are doing the engineering from a place like BITS Pilani, is that the only thing that they look forward to? Was it something that you were looking forward to? And was it an amazing experience for you because that was there, or there was something else that you defined it with?
In coaching centers, right, the way they create that lucrative air around colleges, engineering colleges, is through the cultural fests. And that is what we get attracted towards when we get into a college. You're like cultural fest hoga and all. But once I got into my college, I just realized that I had access to this huge senior pool and alumni pool to a point at which I was just hanging around with them. I was just friends with seniors. I don't have a single friend from my own batch. The only friend I have is my co-founder who was my roommate back then. So that's how my experience was. I was like, I want to learn from these people that have been through this journey which I am taking, and then I just want to make sure that I don't make mistakes.
Give
That
me an
was
example. What were you learning from these people?
So I used to learn about how do I make the best of my first year. Right, so I would just sit with second year, third year students. So even before I went to college, I made my LinkedIn account and I DM'd all the people who were seniors or alumni. And I was like, I want to know from you, how can I make this the best year? How can I make this the best semester? Because I realized somewhere that BITS is expensive, right? Like it's really expensive. It's particularly for my family.
How expensive are you talking about?
So
Sorry, I'm butting in again, but I just want them to understand, you're committing for a college education by paying a lot of money.
yeah, I
And-
think if you go for that degree right now, it is going to increment by 10% every year. So it's going to cost you about 30 lakhs for a 4-year degree. If you go for the dual degree, that might be like 50 or like 45, including all the things. So it was expensive. But my father said yes without a hiccup. But I knew in myself that I did not go to IIT, and now I'm adding to the financial burden of my parents. Did not say it to them, but I just knew it inside myself. वो कभी खुद से feeling आ जाती है आपको, right? And so that is what was there with me. So I was like, what can I do to become independent in my first semester of college itself? And I wanted to stand out from everyone. I used to think that if I will have that IIT tag, I will stand out. But now that I don't have that, I need to find something else. How can I stand out so that I don't have to introduce myself from the college that I am from? And that was the whole premise of my first semester. So I started my journey by learning different skills. I started with Python. Even before I went to college, I learned about basic Python, OOP concepts and all. I used to build simple programming projects. But once I got into college, I learned about AI, machine learning, built multiple projects over there. Then I realized it's getting too research oriented and I don't want to get into that right now. I want to explore. So I started consuming content of this guy called Gary Vee. How many of you have consumed his videos? Very few. I expected more. So I owe everything that I've done to him. Like
Like a
he
lot of
motivated me.
creators.
Yeah. So I started watching his videos and he talked about how can you make a living doing what you love by creating content around that. And so that is when I downloaded Instagram for the first time in my life. And December 2019, I became active on Instagram. I was not on any social media platform before then. And I started talking about what I like. So I would just share workshops I'm attending or anything new that I'm learning. And that's how it started. So I first learned about programming, then machine learning, Then I went into social media marketing, about SEO, about video marketing and all. So once I learned about all of that, I started executing all of that, right? So I used to handle Instagram accounts of all the clubs I was a part of and societies, and I used to design everything myself. So I would literally be awake by 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning in my hostel, just creating posts on Canva for these societies. I was getting paid zero, and I didn't even realize how time was passing. I was just in a state of flow. I just loved designing Canva, posts on Canva for the clubs and societies.
Because you were the Instagram kid in the block, and your friends probably were in the same kind of range. They were also opening up to Instagram. Were you regarded high in their eyes, or when you were making content, you're 18, 19, probably I'm assuming you were 19 back then. The world around you is still developing, right? Your ideas are also developing, and that's the kind of content that you probably are also making. So at that point, what was the reception like for you? And did that motivate or demotivate you?
It was very different, right? So my friends who were in college, they were already on Instagram, right? Before 2019, right? So I was still catching up to the concept of stories and likes and posts and followers and all of that. While they already knew, and they had like private profile as everyone else does. I opened up a public profile, and everyone was like, "Isko private kar le," and all. They thought that मेरे को आता नहीं कैसे private करते हैं. While I was on a different goal itself, and I opened that app. I was like, I want to create content and talk about what I love to do. And that's what I started with. What happened then is I started sharing my journey. And as you know, when you start, you're not great at anything, but you must start, right? It's either day one or one day. So I started. I was not great at communicating. I was not great at editing videos. I was not great at storytelling. I just used to suck at everything, right? But I started, and the first people to pull my leg and pull me down were my own batchmates. Yeah. And there were literal days when people used to just shit on my videos in the WhatsApp groups, right? So you all know, right? There are WhatsApp groups for every single college that you go to, and like classes or societies that you're a part of. And so I became like this meme in my college in 2020, that here is this kid who's making videos trying to look like an influenza, right? So that's what people used to think of me. But I got over that whole phase. I was like, if you can't talk anything good about what I do, I don't want to listen to anything that you think I'm doing bad. And that was my mindset. When I was listening to those messages, those comments, I was reading all of those. I need to focus on becoming better, and that is what's really important.
How did the 19-year-old deal with that? You are saying this in hindsight now, because I'm asking this and I'm saying this again because there are a lot of people who are making content now. It has become generalized. A lot of people start very early that we see they make content. What it does to us, the hate comments that you're talking about, it creates a psychological impact in our minds, right? And probably we're not seeing it, but it's affecting us. Did you realize that it was affecting you in a way?
As I said, right, I've always been alone by myself in solitude. And so I never knew what it is like to be in a group of people. And because of that, I just did not have that concept of, looking better than other people in your friend circle or looking worse than them. So I just did not know about all of those dynamics. The first time it happened, it was when I made and published my first book on 12th July 2020. Everyone in my WhatsApp group of my college was like, who does he think he is? How can he write a book on LinkedIn? He knows nothing about it. And I was just amazed how little people know about who I am and what I do, and yet they are so quick at judging and passing those comments. And so I just realized that they don't have the full context. And so, again, going back to Gary Vee, right? He says this one thing, that you have to be neutral with all the comments, right? So if people cheer you up, you have to be neutral. And hence, when you do that, when people boo you down, you can still be neutral. And so that's the one principle that has helped me keep going in the last 3 years.
And guys, this context is very important for where you work later on also. It's not about the online world where he's creating content. It's probably your own offices. It's probably your own home. It's probably the kind of people that you meet. There are going to be people who are going to pull you down for whatever you're doing, whatever you're starting. probably singing a song on stage, and you probably have to back yourself up every time and do the things that you like doing. And that's probably why I'm interrogating Ishan a little more on that, because like you, probably there are a lot of youngsters who want to do it but don't get the courage to do it because they are pulled down very early in their life.
I think, Paul, haters are all people who can never imagine themselves doing what you are doing, and hence you doing that thing, making that video, posting that LinkedIn post, or making that Canva design, whatever you're doing, is in a fact telling them that you're not capable of that, and which creates that hate, and then they just start putting those negative comments.
Okay, so Ishan, when did the big decision come when you thought that, now I'm done with college? Because that decision in itself takes a lot of courage and strength. Like a lot of people, they can't quit their jobs, right? Because the financial stability that they have. And you have quit your college at the age of, again, 19, probably. I might be wrong by a year or two. Was that a decision that you discussed with your family? Was that a decision that you thought of very well what will happen in the future? Because now you're just a 12th grade, past student, right? And that's going to stay with you forever. Probably the content journey won't stay forever with you. And these are the questions that you'll ask yourself, right? What happened with you at that point in time?
So I dropped out when I was 21. I was in third year of college. I could have just spent one more year and graduated with a degree. But I realized something very important with my journey, right? So for the past 2 years, from 2020 to 2022, I was focusing on my YouTube. I made a promise to myself that every 2 days I'll publish one video. And I stayed true to that. There were over 500, 600 videos at that time on the channel. And I was just loving that rhythm, that routine that I was on. Now, when the pandemic got over, they called us back in college. So March is when they called us back in 2022. I went back. I had all of my camera gear with me. I was like, I'll record videos in the hostel. I'll be consistent. And what I realized was, by that time, I also had my agency called as Market Up, in which we help companies with social media. So I was running that and my YouTube channel, which was going fine if I was doing that full time.
Define fine. What was the status like of your YouTube channel back then?
I think I was at 300K
Oh,
followers.
wow, you already got 300K
Yeah,
followers.
yeah. When I was dropped out, I was at 300K, and Market Up was going strong as well. We were, I think, at about 60 to 70 L ARR. Now, what happened was that when I came to college, I realized
Sorry,
that
I want to reiterate that. You said with Market Up, you were making 60
to 70 L ARR.
to 70 L ARR already
Yeah.
with Market Up
Yeah.
while you were in your third year in college.
Yes.
And what was the package that you were expecting?
Now, the package I was expecting in my electrical engineering was about 10 to 15 at max. Or
that probably defines it.
if I studied really hard, I can get into a CS job, which would be 25L in my college. But again, Market Up was just not my main focus, right? That was the focus of my co-founder, who was doing it full time. For me, it was a way for me to use the trust I've built and divert people who have businesses, who want to grow their businesses, and I can help them with my own learnings of YouTube on their social media front through Market Up. While my main focus was still on my YouTube. But when I got into college, I realized this thing that I had outgrown every single person around me. The reason I'm saying this is because the normal conversations day to day that you will see people having at recess में या फिर खाना खाते हुए या फिर cafe में is like वो प्रोफेसर ने ये punishment दे दी, ये नंबर काट लिए, internship कैसे मिलेगी, and they're like ये question बहुत difficult था, इसमें मेरे 5 मार्क चले गए, अब मैं क्या करूँ, वो बंदी ने मुझे reject कर दिया and all. So it was all of those talks. On the other hand,
But you were not bothered with Bandi rejecting you.
I was, but the other things I was not. So what happened then was, so I was thinking about something completely different. I was thinking about what can I make better on my YouTube. मैं अच्छा thumbnail कैसे बनाऊँ, मैं अच्छी video editing कैसे करूँ, मैं अच्छे लोगों को hire कैसे करूँ, how do I get more clients, how do I learn more about building a business. I was thinking of completely different things than what everyone else around me was thinking about. And if have you visited BITS Goa?
No, not yet.
So it's a campus which is right next to the Goa airport. And when I say right next to, it's like 5 minutes of car. And Goa is a military defense airport.
Yeah.
So you'll always be having jets and helicopters passing by every 5-10 minutes. And because of that, you'll never be able to record a video sitting in your hostel. So it was really hard for me to sit in my hostel. Number one, it was a very dilapidated room. I could just not sit and record good videos. Number two, there were jets on my head just flying every 5 minutes.
30 लाख रुपए किस बात के लिए थे फिर?
I I think it is worth it if you know how to use it. So, for example, the first few clients we got were all Bitsian clients. And that happened because I just made a LinkedIn post and I got like 5 messages from people who were running startups who were also Bitsians. And they were like, we want to work with you. And that's how we got started. And it is worth it because of the alumni network. Now, if you know how to use it well, then you can make a lot more money than what you've spent over there. But again, people don't look at it in terms of ROI, right? They just look at कि भाई Saturday को 5 मिनट दूर है. There's a beach called Bog. तो Bog वालों चले जाते हैं and वहाँ पे बैठ के chill करते हैं लोग. तो it's just very strategically located, right? You just fly 5 minutes, you're in the campus, 5 minutes, you're in the beach, and you're just having a gala time. So I think that in that way it is sort of worth it. But again, everyone defines their own definition of worth or not worth. But yes, going back, I was just not able to gel well with the people around me. And I realized that I don't want to let down the exponential growth I've had. So I'll give you an example. In the first 6 months of me making videos on YouTube, I reached to 1,000 subscribers. It took me 6 months to get there. I was making one video every 2 days, and that's what I got to. In March of 2022, I was getting 1,000 subscribers every single day. 1,000 new subscribers every day. So YouTube or any social media platform works in a exponential curve fashion. Okay. So I did not want to stop here because if I would basically be disrespecting the hard work I've put in the last 2 years. And I would just go downhill from there. And I talked to so many people. I talked to Bitsin alumni. I talked to creators who I look up to, right? I talked to Beer Biceps. I talked to Raj Shivani. I talked to plethora of creators. And I was like, kya karna chahiye mujhe batao? And they all had various approaches, right? Some of them were like, getting in the college was a real deal. Now though you can leave it because you'll always be a Bitsian. And the second thing was like, you only have 1 year left. College ki memories hoti hain, so you have to take that home as well. So that's why you should go for it. But then I just decided that I am not doing justice to my YouTube and my business while I'm living here. And the next 1 year is going to be super important for me. So 27th of March, I called my father that nahi ho raha mujhse college. Please come and let's go back home. Basically, I had shooting equipment with me. So I had those studio lights. I had like a ultra wide monitor to help me to edit videos and all. I had like a camera and everything. So he came, we picked up that luggage and we went back home to Pune. I was living in Pune back then. And 27th March was the date when I dropped out. 1st of April, I was in Bangalore. And I was here for a week just to see kya ho raha hai. I had friends. So I went to a bunch of Web3 events. I went to a lot of tech conferences. I met so many creators, so many people. And I realized that real learning is out there, right? Like while I can sit and I can memorize formulas and know how does random probability work and all, but the real practical learning is happening out there by meeting people, by executing, by actually learning from experiences. And so that's what I decided that I want to go all in with. So that is when I visited Bangalore. Then I went back home to Pune. And then June end is when I shifted to Bangalore with my parents.
You said that the real learning is outside of your college dorms, and probably I 100% agree with you. All the learning that I've had in life, probably they didn't come from college. All the learning that came for me was, interacting with people, whether it's my house help who I interact with regularly, or it's a very, very eminent personality that I'm doing a podcast with. These are the kind of learnings that have shaped the kind of ideas that I have, plus the reading that I do. Yeah. What was your process like when you were making these videos? How did you make sure that you don't come out as somebody who has half-baked knowledge about certain things? How did you make sure you do that?
So I just made sure that I'll just talk about things that I know about. And I wanted to document the journey of a 18, 19-year-old who's navigating, upskilling, finding work, making money. And I want to just document that. So if you see, right, 2020 and 2021, the best videos on my channel are about how I got my first internship, how I got my first freelance client. There was a internship interview I was giving for a social media ad manager role, and I just recorded that. So my laptop was here. I put my phone ka front camera yahan pe, and it was just recording me replying to the answers of the recruiter. While that was not allowed, I just recorded that. I got that internship, and I also posted that on my YouTube. And what happened was that was the most watched video of that month, and people were like, we were so anxious about what people will ask in social media in position interviews, and we just did not know. Thank you for actually documenting this. ऐसा कोई करता नहीं है YouTube पे apparently. And as a 19-year-old who's in first second year trying to get work and get experience, so that was valuable. So I was like, I'll just share my journey and what I'm going through, and people will find that valuable. So that was where I was coming from. Secondly, I just realized that I don't do well with scripts. I just love having like 4 or 5 bullet points written on a piece of paper, and I'll make like a 10-20 minute long video about that, because I'm talking from experience, because I'm talking from things that I've actually done and made mistakes over and learned things. And that's what worked with YouTube and the audience the most.
So you jumped at a time when probably a lot of people were jumping to making content or creating content, and it was probably the time when a lot of content creators also mushroomed, right? And there is a definite slowdown that has happened now. People are going back to their work, their jobs are happening, the channels are kind of not growing the way they were growing for the last 2 years. Now a lot of creators are thinking about an exit opportunity from YouTube, trying to build their own, companies or anything where they can probably keep the ship afloat, right? Do you feel that pressure as well as somebody who has probably taken that decision? Now you have to stick to it, right? Do you have an exit opportunity from here? Do you think that you will be able to go back to work for someone if things don't work out in future? Does that thing bother you somewhere in your head?
Not really. I think MarketUp is doing well. We are close to 500K ARR right now. What is happening with my YouTube, I understand your perspective, but I can see the YouTube studio and the statistics, and what it tells me is that people are watching longer than ever before. People's viewer behavior has changed. The way they consume videos have changed. While previously people were watching 10-15 minute long videos, now people look for substance. People look for depth in the content that they're watching. I ran this experiment of making like really in-depth, long-form videos around topics like freelancing, like business, like habits, and other things, communication skills for that matter. And those have been the best performing videos on my channel ever. I just make like 30-40 minute long videos on each of these topics, sharing everything I've learned. I would just, take like 2-3 hours to jot down all of my learnings and then start recording that and then do takes, because I don't do scripts. So I have to make sure that I'm speaking the right thing at the right point. It takes me about 6 hours to do the whole thing, to edit it, to make it ready. It just works amazingly well. That and podcasts. I think this is what is working a lot. And then having those interesting moments on the podcast that you can turn into clips. People are consuming content differently now, and it's just that awareness that you need to have. And you'll have that by experimentation and by being in creator circles. So the more you interact with people, the more you realize from their learning se kya chal raha hai in the market, and that's when you can pivot. But I think that I'm so used to this routine. I have a friend of mine, and she works in a private equity firm, and she has a very typical, long hours. She's just working. I would just, call her in the middle of the day, and she would not pick up my call, and then she'd be like, "यार, मैं भी काम कर रही थी, तूने phone कैसे लगा दिया?" मैं like, "Oh, I'm sorry. मेरे को लगा कि मैं लगा सकता हूँ phone." Because I'm free, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a particular schedule. I might be recording a video at midnight or at early morning or at whatever time of the day, but I just thought that that's not for me. Like that routine of going to the office, being there for long hours, is not something that I would want to do right now. That can change later on, but not something for me, right? So I recently rented a house near the airport with my co-founder. So now we are running the agency over there. Plus I'm doing my YouTube, so I built a studio over there. So I just wake up, I start my day, hit the gym, come back, and start with recording videos, talking to brands, closing deals, and hiring people, and that just goes on for the whole day.
And what is Ishan, the 22-year-old Ishan, is making with all of this?
So what happened with YouTube is there was a slowdown in 2022 and 2023. Obviously, you all know, right? The funding winter is here and all. So brands are paying less. So there was no increment in the brand deals or in the YouTube ad rates that was there. So 2022 and 2023, I made the exact same amount.
Which is?
There's a video on my channel which you can watch and learn about that. But marketer was doing very good, and I'm really proud about that.
Can we give a range to them as to what people can look up to? Now, why I'm saying this is because you've given up your course that was costing you 30 lakh, which is an opportunity cost in itself because you saved up those 2 years. I mean, from hindsight, I'm saying.
Yeah, I just signed a deal with my college itself for promoting their course for the last 1.5 years. So I just got back all of my money that I invested. So it's very interesting that way.
Right. So we're not talking about figures, but that's okay. But as a creator, what gave you the most high? So, the creators, they thrive on the kind of success that they get. Every morning that you wake up to notifications, and probably it's very satisfying to see at some point that, you're getting recognized.
I get no notifications, turned them off completely.
When did you decide to do that?
I think it was, I don't even remember. I think it's been like 1.5, 2 years. Pehle, when I was just starting, I used to get emails, new comment on this video, new subscriber, and I would just press everyone and look at what are they saying and kisne subscribe kiya and all that. So that was interesting. But now I am at a point at which I need to get up and focus on what people are saying in the comments, do like a analysis of what is the sentiment over there, and then try to make videos that they are asking for. So that's what I do. I don't look at particular comments and like subscribers and all. But yeah, like you were asking, right? How much can people really make? So last year I made about 3 crores with the content. And the reason I'm talking about numbers is because no one talks about it. And they don't talk about it because India is a very weird country in terms of when we talk about money, right? No one wants to talk about money. And I just find it weird because I was able to do all of this because of people, right? It was not me just being in myself doing some black magic. It was me making videos. It was people watching videos, people getting value from that, and hence me making a living doing that. So that's what I made. Now, it can vary largely depending on what you're doing, right? I don't have a course. I don't sell a course to anyone. I don't have anything to sell other than my 2 books, which are on Amazon. But
do you plan to sell a course though?
I don't. I think that it's an incremental upgrade, right? Like, so when you have these checks coming in, right? Every month, if you're a software engineer, let's just say in Bangalore, you're getting like 1.5 L every month, you get used to that level, right? So similarly, as a creator, I'm getting a certain check, right? Multiple checks are coming in. So I'm now used to that number. If I make a course, that 3 CR can maybe become 10 or 15 CR. But the problem is, nothing really changes in my lifestyle with that difference. So my mind is always thinking about how can I go from 3 to 50 or 100, and that will not happen with a course. Like, what is the most successful course that you know about? Anyone? The course that has done the most numbers. Variku, right? Variku did what? 70 crores? He made a post about that. 70 crores he did by ads, right? That is his revenue. Now you break it down, you get to profit, and it's not that much, right? It's like barely 20, 25 CR, which is great for him. I am looking for how can I...
He must have spent 20 crore in ads only. I've
exactly
seen him everywhere.
Exactly. So that's how it is. But I wanted to do something else. I just realized that knowledge should be free. What people will value is access to opportunities. That's what I want to get into, and I want to make like a proper tech product and approach it through that sense. So I'm working on that, going through various ideas. 2024 is going to be a year where I launch a lot of different things. So excited about that.
The creator economy growing in India, or do you have certain bit of pessimism around it as well?
I think there is a lot of scope. There is so much scope. For example, right? So MarketUp handles this doctor who's a creator on Instagram, and we realized that there's so much lack of information from a expert, from someone who's actually specialized, that people can trust. There are lots of creators making videos on health, आपको क्या करना चाहिए, क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. Well, no one has that backing, right? Person actually has. They have that degree. There is opportunities like that, right? There is that in law, in medicine, where you really need that degree, that expertise. So that is there, for example.
You put up a lot of content on varied things. I mean, when I was going through your content, business, learning about skills, again, the relationship advice. I think you're still in the mode of figuring out the kind of things that you want to delve deeper into, right? Did you get questions where they asked you that, ये 22 साल का लड़का, why is he giving me so much gyan? And why should I even take him seriously?
No, I think I've already gotten deep into freelancing. So if you just search freelancing on YouTube incognito, you'll find my videos at the top. Among the top 10 or so, you'll find my videos over there. So I have gone really deep into freelancing. So if anyone wants to freelance, I've made a whole playlist on how to do that. And that's what I've specialized into in the last 3 years. Recently, I realized that I'm evolving as a person, right? Pehle, I was just like, I'll just work. Freelancing is the way to go. Then I realized that delegating is an important skill to learn. So how do you hire people? The next skill is how do you talk to people, right? And at the end, I realized that no matter how well you are at what you do, at the end, it's just a people's game. And so I started talking about how do you talk to people, how do you communicate, how do you build relationships with people. So I think it's that pyramid that you can create, right? From those hard skills, freelancing and graphic design and video editing, then going upwards and then going to the top, which is people skills. So I'm trying to evolve and then evolve my audience along with that journey so that they get to learn something new that I am learning as well. So that's how it is.
I'm going to open it for the audience. I hope that you guys also have something that you want to ask him, and we have enough time to do that. So can I have hands, please? You want to ask anything to Ishan?
Pilani played a bigger role, like for whom you're here today. The friends that you made. So you have been mentioning friend of mine. So the network was really good. So if at all, not Pilani, like where do you see yourself?
Yeah, I think I was always active on LinkedIn, right? Even before I got into college, and I was DMing random people, right? People who I thought were interesting and I want to learn from them. I would just message them. So I had made friends who were in like VIT or like IITs or other colleges. I was just this curious 17-year-old who wanted to learn about how the career works, how do I progress forward. And I just used to reach out to people like that. And I just used to ask questions. And I think even if it would not have been of me getting into bits, we don't know for sure, obviously. But I think that network of me reaching out to people on LinkedIn would have helped out a lot. So I think that is the number one thing. Secondly, I think because I was able to come here in Bangalore, I was exposed to a lot of building, like how do you build businesses. I made so many great mentors. I got to meet Nikhil Kamath and Nitin Kamath while I was writing my book Unlocking Unicorn Secret, and that was the best experience. They were sort of became like my mentors. I could now just message them and be like, this is what I'm facing in my business, what should I do? And they would reply back. And that's just the best feeling, right? So I built that brick by brick by just being out there, being visible, and just being active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been like the biggest help for me.
So it's you have plans of going to BITS again and getting your degree?
No, bro,
Yeah.
not really.
You could reach out to them and you could get their time because you had a lot of subscribers, or is it because you have already built your brand? But what if somebody is, just starting out, they're thinking of doing the similar thing, reaching out to people to either get them on their podcast or something. So how should they approach reaching out and actually getting them to record a video with you?
I think networks is very important.
You have an internet connection. You have a phone of your own.
Email.
You have email. You're sorted. Trust me. That's how it works.
Like we got all of the opportunities because we emailed. So the easiest thing to do is just to search, for example, Oyo, right? So Oyo PR head LinkedIn profile. You'll find the LinkedIn profile, you figure out the email format and just shoot an email to them. And then just follow up. And that's how you get opportunities.
Also, how I connected with Ishan, again, we're talking about the networking that he was talking about. Even if you're starting up, one, build your connections. Two, just write cold emails. That's it. Just make sure that your proposition is so strong that the other person looking at your email can't deny you, even if you have like 10 subscribers.
So I did a first podcast with Ankur Variku on my channel. And the backstory of doing that podcast was I followed up with him for 8 months. So every month I would write him an email and he would reply back to each of the emails saying that I'm having a pretty busy schedule. Let's connect back next month. And then finally he was like, hey Shan, let's do this. So he looped in his team and I got to do that first podcast, and that's how I became friends with him later on. So it's just that relentlessness that you need to have. That is important.
Super. Thank you very much, guys, for asking these questions. Thank you once again, Ishan, for sharing your insights, sharing your journey, sharing the way they can actually open up to the world of social media, I would say. And although a lot of you might not see the value of it, I just want to double click on it or highlight on it that, the world is changing. The kind of skills that you need as managers for tomorrow are also changing. And you need to buckle up for those changes, and the soft skills that we talked about, the kind of personal brand building that we talked about for an hour or so, has become very, very crucial for managers as well, because companies are looking for something beyond that you have learned in your particular institute or university or anywhere that you have gone into. And if you can showcase that probably is a plus that you have over the 1,000 odd other people who have applied for the same job. So I hope that it was inspiring. I hope that you learned something. I hope that some of this you will apply in your lives as well in the future. And if you did not like it also, that's completely fine.